Leave it at the door. Gerald. Hey, everyone. Just giving everybody like a few more minutes to come on. Just, I always come on like a little bit earlier. Let me go ahead. Get some more people in here. Let me see. Like a few more minutes, like 5, like not even 5, maybe like 3 more minutes. Here we go. Dr. K. Simon, how are you? Thank you
Hey,
for joining me tonight. Thank you.
no problem, no problem. How are you?
I'm doing good. How are you doing?
Um, if I'm honest, I'm tired. But no, I'm okay. I'm good. I'm good.
How you holding up?
Um, Fine, actually. I mean, so I'm generally okay. The reason I'm tired, I had clinic today. So seeing a lot of people, and that just at the end of the day becomes tiring. Trying to like keep a holding space for each patient.
Okay.
And then, you like, I drive home and my mind just kind of like goes. But overall, I'm doing okay. And just trying to, put the word out on mental health and um, how we all can be kind of like doing better in this time because a lot of stuff is going on that's not usual.
So,
Yeah.
what type of medicine, before we get into what's happening, what's not
Uh-huh.
happening in the world, what type of medicine do you study?
Um, Good question. So I am a psychiatrist. I'm a board certified psychiatrist. Currently, I am also a child and adolescent psychiatry fellow at Boston Children's Hospital. I'm also an addiction medicine fellow at Boston Children's Hospital, which is affiliated with the Harvard Medical School. So, adult, child, addiction, all in that world. That's what I do.
So you are on the. I know your wife is also a doctor. So you guys are both on the front line of like the COVID-19 pandemic, correct?
Yeah,
So how has that been on the inside? I know what like my COVID-19 pandemic experience, but I don't really know firsthand like how the doctors that were on the front line what they experienced. I mean, like we saw what the media could cover, but
right,
like from a person that I know, I don't know exactly what it felt like for you and your wife to both be like on the front line of this
right,
pandemic.
right.
What was happening
So,
midway through?
yeah, yeah. So, I would say that Brittany, that's my wife. So follow, at Brittany Halford. Um, I would say that she more so than I was frontline because she's a hospitalist, so internal medicine, and she had like a COVID unit. So she'd go in, and multiple people that she was taking care of had COVID. Um, in my hospital, it would be that I'm a consultant to, like let's say the pediatric team, and somebody's having like some confusion or something that they need psychiatry for. I would come in and do an assessment, but I wouldn't say that I'm as frontline as my wife was. And then there's a adult hospital that I work at, an adult psychiatric hospital, where there were a number of people who had COVID, and so when I'm going in, I'm gowning up, looking like a spacesuit, and so overall, what they show you on the media actually kind of does happen in, in the hospital. And then from like a married couple, two doctor household perspective, I know for sure, um, like the week before Brittany went in, like it was a real conversation. Like, okay, so how are we doing this? Is somebody quarantining? Are we sending our daughter to our aunt's house? It really was like a flip of the coin. Okay, what are we gonna do? And it's like she would go in, have her hospital attire or hospital clothes. As soon as she leaves, she changed clothes. As soon as she got to the house, the nanny or myself is kind of like hiding our daughter from her because generally our daughter likes to, hold, hug, touch our necks.
Right.
And so, it's like take a quick shower and then, okay, we feel kind of comfortable and we embrace, our daughter and do what families do. But it definitely was like a lot of, I guess, decisions that we weren't really thinking about beforehand. Like we weren't thinking, okay, it was just we're going to work. But now it's like, okay, this is a lot more risk related to patient interaction, which is unusual for us in that we're not thinking about what we're going to go treat could also come home with us.
Right.
I've never previously had that versus now it's like, okay, let me make sure like true, the PP or the protective eyewear, you get the N95 mask. So yeah, so it definitely made us feel unusual is the best way to say it. They did not prepare you for this in med school.
I was going to ask you that. All the medical school training never prepared you for a pandemic so contagious.
Yeah, no, I mean you hear about it, you read about it, you watch movies, but there's things like disasters, right? So like Katrina happened, or what I think it was 2013 or 2014. There's a major flood in New York,
Sandy.
um, right? But that's like an event happens to a city, and that city might be shut down, and it has to do some rebuilding. But this is like, person A infects like 10 people.
Right.
And it's crazy because there is no, you can't see it, right? So like Sandy, you saw the water. Katrina, you see the water. Hurricanes, you see the damage. Here, it's like, I don't know who has it, who doesn't have it. And so again, it's why a lot of people are wearing masks.
So like for example, now like New York City is in phase 1.
Mm-hmm.
So they're trying to open us up. What precautions
Right.
can the Black community, because I feel like we're tired. Like everyone in the Black
Right.
community is
Right.
pretty much tired, but I really want everybody to know exactly what we're dealing with, because I believe that a lot of people are going around with the media is not giving us the truth. Like there's some sense
Mm-hmm.
of like rebellion against what's going on. It's not that serious. Like a lot of
Right.
people are not wearing masks here in New York City. People are starting to go back out to the park. People are planning events. People are doing things, and they want to get back to what was, I guess, normal. What are we really
Right.
dealing
Right.
with, and what are the chances of us ever going back to the way we used to be?
So, you mentioned that you're in phase 1.
Yeah.
In Massachusetts, we're in like phase 2.5. I would say if anybody who's watching this, or you talk to your aunt, you talk to your uncle, you talk to siblings, you definitely need a mask, like ASAP. And like I know people want to, be social and have, what July 4th is about to come up. People are gonna have cookouts. We still have to engage in social distancing. We still have to wash our hands as often as we can, because the reality is there are going to be a lot of people who end up having the coronavirus, who are healthy people, right? Like you're a healthy woman. You just had a baby not too long ago, right? You're a healthy woman.
Correct.
You will feel something, like you'll feel the cough, you'll feel the fever. You may not end up going to the hospital, but the issue is just because you're healthy doesn't mean that your mom's is healthy, right? My
Right.
mom, she's older. During this whole time, they were in Brooklyn. Um, they didn't really go anywhere other than like to the local grocery market during the senior citizen hours. Like it was like, mom, like no, like you can't really go out. So the the young people, I think they should definitely look at the seriousness of this. And I mean, it's just wearing a mask, right? You can get a mask that has I can't breathe on it, a mask that says Black Lives Matter on it, a mask that has your country on it, right? I could have a Haitian mask, a Jamaican mask. It's just a mask. And then everybody should have like one of those little Purell keychain things, because the reason you want the Purell, sorry to go on a tangent here, the reason you
No,
want
no,
that is
please let everyone know, because we're giving up right now. Everyone's kind of giving up.
so the virus likes to enter our body through what we call like mucosal lining, right? So our mouth, right? So the lip, our tongue, and then our eyes. So in the hospital, anytime I go into a patient's room, I have a mask on and I have like a goggle shade on. The reason you want the frequent hand washing, so our hands are what we call like keratinized. Classically, girls, you all buy like, biotin and vitamin E, trying to like make your hair stronger, keratinized, like the proteins. So the virus could land on your hand and it's not going to break through the skin of your hand. And so what ends up happening is you have this virus that's on your hand. And what do we regularly do? We touch our face. And so when we touch our face, there's a nice T zone that we call it. You're putting the virus very close to your mouth. You're putting the virus very close to the eyes. And so you got to frequently wash your hands because you're washing potentially the virus off. So hand washing, Purell, or any of the hand sanitizers, and wear a mask would be the minimum that you should be doing. If you don't want to do the social distancing, even though you should be, the minimum you should be doing is the mask, definitely hand washing. If you want to wear goggles, you can. That would also be very helpful. But you definitely, this is not going away. We don't have like a cure. We don't have a medication that kills coronavirus. They have trials going on right now, but this isn't anything to play around with. Because the reality is, honestly, I wouldn't. And there's evidence to suggest that in about 2 or 3 weeks, because of the number of the protests that we're having, that we're going to see kind of bump ups back in the COVID numbers. So anyone who's watching, anyone you talk to, who's like, hey, let's go to the club, you're like, I think I'll hold off on the club. I could meet you outside at the park. That's air. I can keep my
Right.
distance. But yeah, like there was in Atlanta. I so we used to live in Atlanta. Um,
Your
we
wife
used
is
to live.
here. Your wife. Okay, so
I see.
quick one thing. So Dr. Kevin's wife, Dr. Brittany, is in the comment section. If you have a question, a medical question, she is an internal medicine frontline. She is underneath here answering questions in the comment
She is.
section.
She
I
is.
love
She
Brittany.
is.
She is definitely in the
Yes.
comment section asking. Someone asked, "Is it safe to travel?" And she's already assisting people in the comment section as far as like rubbing your eyes,
Right.
touching your
Right.
face,
Right.
etc., etc.
Right.
So
Right.
Dr. Brittany is
Right.
definitely in the comment section.
Yeah.
So like,
You. Yeah. Go ahead.
no, I was gonna ask like, so as far as like coping with it, so we get it. We have to wash our hands. We get it. We have to wear
Yeah.
the mask. We get the social distancing. What
Right.
about traveling around this time?
So airlines still want money. So airlines are still going. But if you're gonna travel again, you got to do the protective stuff. You if you can get an N95, which most people can't,
Right.
that would be great because the issue with airline travel is so like you're in New York, right? You go to JFK, you go to LaGuardia, there's a lot of people there.
Right.
There may not be as many now, but the fact of the matter is you'll probably interact with more people at the airport right now than you would in other times because everybody's been home in quarantine. And so the idea of like going to the little it's not a bodega but the little corner stores in the aisle, I wouldn't do that because again a lot of people walking in and out, people are coughing. So if you are going to fly legit, I would pack my food that I could take, right? So you can't bring the water past the security gate, but I'd pack my food. I'd have gloves. So again, the little cheap gloves that you can buy from Walgreens, CVS. I'd buy gloves to have on me, and I'd have a mask, definitely for sure. And I would try to dress pretty protective if I'm going to be traveling. And
Okay.
so the glove piece, and ensuring you have like a really solid mask would be ideal, because the issue that was going to happen if you travel and you get sick, there's too many people that could have gone through the airport where you're not going to have an opportunity, or the public health system won't have a really great opportunity to do like what we call contact tracing. It's different if you're situated in a barbecue. Someone gets sick at the barbecue. You can say, okay, hey, who's all the people we invited to the barbecue, or who's all the people that we invited to the house? But an airport, there's so many people coming in and out. It'd be
Right.
really hard to kind of trace. So I would be a little bit cautious.
So,
Um,
what's the coping like as far as like again, we have the coronavirus. Now we
uh-huh.
have the riots. So, like, how do we cope through COVID-19, through the racial riots that are happening right now? Like,
Right,
what can we do to cope?
right. I just want to, because somebody asks, why wear the glove if it can't pass through your skin? The point is, you don't want it on you anyway. So, like, you wear
Right.
the glove, you can toss the glove away. So,
Right.
just to answer that question. But in reference to coping, so um, that's a very good question. So, we had so basically, COVID or coronavirus became a thing actually in December 2019. I actually have a journal where Dr. Fauci mentioned it and said we need to be aware of it, and that was in January. So anyway, February, um, March, April, May, we hear Black people dying at great rates because of COVID. Then you throw in, technically in February, Ahmaud Arbery got shot, died. We learned of it in May. Breonna Taylor shot at home, doing
Right.
nothing, devastating. Memorial Day of all days, right? Memorial Day, we all see this graphic 8 minute, 46-second video. And all the stress that people were feeling by being contained in quarantine, on top of like hearing about this repeated, and then seeing basically a modern day lynching. This is why you see people in the street protesting, because it's like we can't take any more. So as a community, we're feeling what I would call like a community acute stress reaction. It's all the pain that we've been holding on to that kind of bubbles over every couple of years, right? So Freddie Gray bubbled
Right.
over, Trayvon Martin bubbled over.
Mm-hmm.
This, because of, I think, COVID, like being together, was too much emotionally. So what should you do in terms of like, okay, well, how do I actually get through this time? Um, I would say I'll just keep three things. So one, everybody that's here should be taking space for themselves. And when I say taking space, meaning, yes, it's okay to detach from social media. It's okay to detach from, watching TV. And if you have an opportunity safely to go to a park and to not think about what's happening, that will be healthy for you. Because we need an opportunity to like breathe. We need an opportunity to relax. Because under this current stress that we're in, one of the things about stress is it makes it hard for you to relax. So I would say taking space for yourself. Two, I know a lot of people who are reaching out to me, like, hey, Kev, what do you cost? I just need to talk to somebody. I know you. If you really need to talk to somebody, like, do try to seek out professional help, because the challenge of what we're going through and what people are feeling. I'm a black male. I have a lot of friends who are black males who are in Georgia, who are in Connecticut, who are in Chicago, and they're talking about like they just don't feel comfortable going out. And then the second issue is all of this is happening, yet they still have to go to work, right? And
Right.
how are we all working right now? Zoom or any other kind of platform media, pretending, because sometimes your company isn't recognizing like, oh, hey, is something going on with you? So the reality is you have to find a space for yourself that is contained where you can let your emotions out. And so that's why I'm talking about therapy. So there's taking space away from all the social media stuff, is going to the park, working out. But you're still going to feel something emotional that you need to release. The second thing would be having what I'm calling a holding space. And that holding space could be a very confident friend. That holding space could be a church pastor. That holding space could be, again, a therapist, where you can just let fly whatever you're thinking without any judgment. And I can tell you for myself, every Tuesday, 6 p.m., you'll never see me on a live, because every Tuesday, 6 p.m., I'm in therapy. And in therapy, I go off, right? All other times, I'm pretty contained,
Right.
because there's a lot that's going on. And so you should have a space that you can kind of like outlet. The third thing is, because one, you took space, you turned off social media. Two, you found a holding space where you can put your emotions in. Three, okay, we have to actually act, right? So
Right.
engage in protests, engage in rallies, engage in voting, engage in donating, engage in educating. So you want to be engaged because you want to be part of the solution, part of the process that's moving things forward. So the reason why I myself can be engaged is I do the first two things. So I don't feel too tired, and I feel a bit energized when I start to talk to people about all the things that we should be doing.
Right.
So again, one, take space. Two, find a holding space. And three, actually engage in activities that move the conversation forward, activities that move your company forward, activities that move your system forward.
So again, I mean, you already touched on the next question that I was going to ask, which was how important
Mm-hmm.
is it that we as the Black community invest in our mental health? Because I know there's like a big stigma with
Oh,
doctors and medicine, and medicine not really working or not really trusting medical professionals or feeling like you might be a little bit crazy. So I just want you to kind of just
right,
touch on how
right,
important
right.
it is to seek some type of counsel or professional help moving forward,
Yeah.
especially after this.
Yeah, no, it unfortunately there is a lot within medicine that is not great. You hear about black moms dying at a higher rate. If you come in with pain and you're black, you don't get the same kind of pain medication. If you're black and you present with a psychiatric problem, people are going to consider you crazy. A lot of us in the black community, our black families, it's why would you talk to a psychiatrist? Why don't you just go to church? It
Yeah.
happens to be I'm like this meld. My dad's a deacon, so that's the church. I'm a psychiatrist. I'm Haitian, where I can tell you definitely mental health within the Haitian community is like, what is that? Why would you do that? Um, it's important because one, if you can find someone who is culturally informed with regards to understanding the role that society plays in putting pressure on you as a person, and you get to actually have a conversation about that, that is invaluable. And when I say that, I mean, even if you have not been arrested, even if you have not been shot, even if you have not been pulled over by a cop, the fact of your blackness in our country, you feel pressure,
Right.
right? You feel pressure about school, you feel pressure about work, you feel pressure about where you're living. So that alone, trust me, if you sat down and you had somebody listen to you, you would have so much to get off of your chest and to get off of your shoulders that you're carrying around on a day-to-day basis. Again, this is for the people that, by all accounts, people say, "Oh, you're a nice person. Like nothing's bad happened to you." The fact of being black, again, going on the train, there's just so many what we call microaggressions that happen on a day-to-day basis
Yep.
that they become these little needles and they annoy you and they annoy you and they annoy you. And then you come to find out you're in a relationship and you're popping off, right? Like you just get really upset and you're like, what did I do to you? It's not really that you did anything. It's society has been pounding on this person and they need an outlet. And so that outlet becomes someone that they're close to. And the
Right.
reason that oftentimes that we hurt people that we are close to is we kind of know, oh, well, this person's not going to leave me. And so sometimes your pain reflects to that person, hoping that they don't leave. So again, it is critically important that that as a community, we do engage in conversations like this. Because I'm telling you, there are a number of people who are watching and a number of people that we all know
Right.
that when we look at, it's not, and it doesn't have to be that you have a particular diagnosis, right? Like I have hundreds of diagnoses, but it doesn't mean that you're bipolar. It doesn't mean that you have major depression. It doesn't mean that you have generalized anxiety. You could have those things, but you could also just be upset because your boss sent you this email that read kind of funny and you don't know how to respond to it, right? You could talk about that. Um, it could be that, you know, your your son or your daughter didn't listen to you today. That doesn't mean that you have some like, major condition. It could just be, honestly, I need to talk about this because I don't know how to respond to this thing. So I think the black patients that I have that see me, that talk to me, when we have these conversations, it's interesting. So again, I see kids,
Right.
but very frequently, at the end of the appointment, the mom or dad comes in, and I'm having like a little mini session with mom and dad because they're they're wanting to tell me some stuff, and it's okay because I know hey, I'm here. I'm seeing your son. I'm seeing your daughter. The fact of the matter is, your son and daughter are a part of you as a family unit. So if I have to give you 10 extra minutes because you have something important to tell me, then that's fine. But again, all of us, all of us undoubtedly have stuff that we could talk about, and we shouldn't really feel bad talking about it.
So I have
Go ahead.
no, I have one more thing. 'Cause I know you have to go because I know you're at work. You're at work right now, correct?
Well, no, no. I am home. It
But it's your
happens to be my
birthday.
birthday.
It's your
Yes.
birthday.
And
Happy birthday.
and my wife has dinner ready. So I'm trying to be a
Yes,
good
we
husband
have
too.
to hurry up because I want you to eat your birthday dinner. So I heard you make the statement comfortable being uncomfortable. I just want you to kind of
Yeah.
like explain that phrase, comfortable being uncomfortable.
Yes. So at least for me as a psychiatrist, in my training, one of the things that I had to learn was I would meet people at very, very interesting parts of their life, particularly when I was working in like the emergency room. Someone comes in and let's just say they're high, right? They just did cocaine. They think they want to hurt themselves. They think they want to kill themselves. It is very uncomfortable having that kind of like interaction with people that you just generally would not meet. But for me, I had to learn how to, okay, I'm going to be here. I'm going to be still. I'm going to be calm. And the reality is that when I'm talking to this person, um, I might be uncomfortable, but I want to hear what they're telling me. I want them to feel that I am paying attention to them, that I am listening to them. And the reason I mention it in another IG is conversations related to racism or conversations related to mental health make people feel uncomfortable, right? If now, granted, if the people that are here were not watching, and you and I were, you're on the couch and I'm talking to you, and I start to ask you questions about things that are deep inside your heart, deep inside your core, you're going to be uncomfortable. Now, generally, if you think about other places where you're uncomfortable, what typically happens is growth after that uncomfortableness. So I'll give people an example. I'm sure there are people here who played sports. I'm sure there are people here who were in school. I'm sure there are people who learned the language. At some point, you used to get, like you couldn't dribble, you weren't fast, you didn't like working out. Those things made your body feel uncomfortable. But then after a while, you're like, wait a minute, okay, my leg's not as tired, my biceps not as tired. Okay, I'm not getting as many math questions wrong. I'm not making as many mistakes. You got past that uncomfortable part, you got past that learning curve, and then you were actually able to be in a position where you could take time to understand what is happening. So the same thing happens in conversations and communication about mental health. Same thing happens with conversations and communications about racism. Is there is this uncomfortable flavor that we have, but then at the end of it, it could be like, you know what? Actually, we're closer together, or I understand you. Oftentimes, I'll give you an example. We've all been in relationships.
Mm-hmm.
Undoubtedly, most people, for whatever reason, lie in relationships. If you confront the person, you could have the videotape, you could have, quotes from other people and say, hey, I saw that you lied or you broke this thing, right? And you show them the evidence, they'll be like, well, that wasn't me. Initially, most people just become defensive, even if the evidence is 1,000% like, well, no, this is actually true. It is because it feels very uncomfortable to feel what? To feel vulnerable. That's the thing that people don't want to feel. People don't want to feel vulnerable. When you feel vulnerable, you're letting somebody in and saying, "Hey, don't hurt me." Right? And so when people are talking about mental health and people immediately say you're crazy or that's not right. What they don't want to feel is that uncomfortableness because maybe they felt anxious. Maybe they felt depression before. but they don't want to be honest and let that out. And so what do? They put a block up. And so when I say feel comfortable with being uncomfortable, it's a skill that I've been in school for a very long time and trained for a very long time that I've gotten good at, but generally most people are not readily comfortable being uncomfortable. But with a therapist, for instance, that's something that you can learn over time, and generally it will be helpful. Because again, on the other side of uncomfortableness, just like with sports, learning is transition, is change, is growth, which is things that you want to feel. So within our community, I think that's something that we have to begin to have conversations about, kind of like we're having here right now. I can hear you now. Yeah.
Oh, okay. I don't know what happened. Yeah. Okay. Well, I don't want to hold you up anymore. I want to thank you for coming. I definitely want to have another conversation with you and Brittany in the future. If you guys are both
No
up to it,
problem.
I definitely want to have you two on there. And I thank you so much for coming and talking. A lot of people wanted to have a conversation about mental health. So I wanted
No,
to actually get you in here just to have just a little bit of coping mechanisms, what we can do while we're here, while we're
right.
quarantining, while we're social distancing, while we are wearing our mask. Like
Yeah. So again,
what can we do?
anytime you want to have a conversation, we go back what,
Yeah,
like 03, 04? God, such
definitely
a long
03.
time. So anytime you want me on, I am here. We're family.
Thank you.
And so what you're doing, talking to the people, is very important. So keep doing it, and thank you for having me.
Thank you. Tell Brittany I said good night.
All righty.